So now um, I will hand it over to Marion. Marion is the founder and host of the Black Earth podcast. She's a next generation foresight practitioner fellow, and she will facilitate a session called Grief and Gratitude, a futures practice to live with these times. Marion, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and for helping us start this event with such important topics. So, over to you.
Thank you so much, Thais, Abril, for inviting me to be part of this conference. There's already so much love and care and intentionality just from the reception we've had now. So I'm super grateful to be a part of this session and to host it with you all. And I want to thank everyone that's joined from whatever time zone and part of the ether that you're joining from. It's an honor to be here in community with everyone. So I'll just briefly share my screen to to formally introduce the session, and then we'll carry on. Are you able to see my screen? Okay.
Yes, yes,
I'm going to be looking to you, Thais and Abril, to for guidance.
sure.
Um, so, grief and gratitude. Um, I first hosted a grief and gratitude session in 2020 when I was working at the World Wildlife Fund for Nature. As many of you probably experienced, 2020 was a really intense period of profound change. And the circle I hosted for my colleagues was a space for us to name all the complex emotions that we were experiencing as a result of 2020. Um, and that experience brought us closer. It gave us so much more clarity and a lot of resilience. Um, Being able to honor both the darkness, um, especially in times like these, the heaviness of the emotions that we feel, as well as the beauty, the specks of beauty that we find in difficult times is really important. And as futurists, it's important for us to also be able to hold complexity in the work that we do. And I believe that this decade, the past few years, and the years to come, there'll be so many moments of like profound loss. And I think it's important for us to also come to terms with that. But I think there's also space for us to hold on to um, the moments of life and joy that we are creating every day and that still exists in this world. And it's also, I don't know, Thais and Abril, I don't know if you did this on purpose, but in the Northern Hemisphere, we are going through the spring equinox. So this is a time within Mother Nature where she transitions from winter into spring. So today and tomorrow and the next few days is a threshold that is really powerful. Um, and so my intention for hosting this circle is really a space for all of us to name the complexity of um, it's more than emotions, the complexity of responses that we are feeling as a result of the deep changes that are happening in the world right now. To learn from that wisdom, to learn from each other, and to explore how we can harness these personal experiences into our futures practices. As women who futures, we know that futures practice is more than the intellectual, it's an embodied experience. By living and being, we are participating in the creation of new futures. So I'd invite you to, if you have a journal or something where you document kind of your personal feelings or your personal insights, there'll be time throughout the next hour to be able to do that. And there'll also be an opportunity to then share some of your insights with the rest of the group, either via the group chat or you can unmute your mic and speak. But there's no pressure to share what you don't want to share. But it's an opportunity to do so if you haven't had time to process it in other spaces. So I wanted to start off with grief. There are many different expressions and definitions of what grief is across, different societies, different cultures. I would like to name for this circle, I'd like to name grief as a life process. And it's a life process that allows us to respond to a moment of profound loss. Grief is an initiation, and it's also a threshold. And for me, when I think of a threshold, I always imagine an ocean where the ocean meets the land. And I like to think of grief as that threshold that connects the past, the present, and the future. And grief takes on many forms. It can be personal grief, the loss of a loved one, loss of experiences, loss of identities. Grief can be collective. It could be a shared process, a shared life process in response to a community trauma. And it can also transcend time through different generations. And grief in our present moment is also in response to the immense change and profound loss that's happening with Mother Earth. And grief it's a human experience, but it's also a more than human experience. We now know that other life beings, for example, orcas, baboons, elephants, they also experience and undergo grief when they have lost someone or experiencing loss in different forms. And it's really important for us to be able to hold space to acknowledge our grief because it allows us to connect to each other on a deeper level. But it also helps us understand what we value. We grieve what we love, and grief is an expression, a deep expression of love. So I wanted to start off by inviting you to spend perhaps the next 5 minutes in your personal journals, whichever way you like to record things, just to give yourself time to connect with yourself and to reflect on what you're grieving at the moment and why. And it can be any of these expressions, personal, collective, or ecological. So I'll give you 5 minutes to reflect on that. And then after this reflection, there'll be an opportunity to share any insights from this moment. And I'll play some nature sounds, if that's okay, just to accompany us in our reflections. Thais and Abril, let me know if you can hear the sound.
Not yet, Marion. If you want to. Oh, yeah, no, yes. Perfect.
So I hope you've had some time um, to write down a few reflections on what you're grieving at the moment. Um, I'd like to invite us to perhaps share a few of the insights that have come in the past few minutes. As I said, you don't have to share anything you're not comfortable sharing. Um, and you can either do so through the Zoom chat, or if you'd like to unmute and speak, you can also do that. I can't quite see the chat, Thais, but
Yeah, I can take a look. And at this point, I would then pause the recording so we feel, yeah, more like at home to share.
um, and it took me a while to really move through that grief. I felt very stuck in many ways. I felt very uninspired. Um, and I felt like I couldn't communicate everything that I was experiencing uh, when it came to this grief. It felt very hard to express something that seemed to color all my days, but just wasn't there. And I think anyone in this call who's lived long enough has experienced grief in some form and can relate to that sense of numbness that comes when you are living with grief and living through grief. And the thing that carried me through that grief was learning to reconnect with what I truly loved, which was Mother Nature, which was life. And I began to engage and kind of just understand how nature creates life, all the different processes and systems that nature has to create the life system that we're all a part of. Um, and you know, I have this image of a tree ring because it symbolizes so much of that life process. What we see are, really beautiful patterns on this beautiful tree ring, but this is also a symbol of life and memory, right? Every ring is a documentation of history, documentation of life processes that this tree has experienced and gone through. And these rings also tell a story, and the story isn't just about the history of time that this tree has lived through. We see these patterns across all of Earth's life systems, right? From if you look at your fingerprint, you can see the same tree ring pattern, and so we're connected to nature in very profound ways. And I guess what I'm trying to connect with is the fact that finding and connecting with the thing that I loved, the being that I loved, who is nature, allowed me to process and understand my eco grief and what that meant for my work as a futurist, as a change maker, as an earth keeper. Um, and so I harnessed all of that energy to create a podcast episode, a podcast season on innovation inspired by nature, and trying to find new ways to showcase that nature is fundamentally life, and that amidst all the loss that we're experiencing on this earth as a result of the brutal systems of oppression that exist, uh, nature is life. And it's possible for us to tap into her wisdom, her intelligence, um, to create new worlds, to create new futures, to create alternate ways of living and being as humans on this beautiful planet that we have been gifted with. Um, and so that leads me to the next element of this duality that we're experiencing of grief and gratitude. Gratitude for me isn't positive thinking. It's not. It's not just wishing away all the bad stuff in our life. It's it's learning to make contact with the good that is still exists in our life amidst all the challenges, amidst all the sadness that is around us and within us. Um, and it doesn't have to be something grand, but it's a moment to acknowledge and embrace the life-giving force that exists on this planet, the life-giving force that is this planet, and and to use that energy to find meaning and inspiration and resilience to move forward. And so, withholding all of the moments of grief that we've named in the previous session, I wanted to invite you to spend a few minutes exploring moments of gratitude in your life right now. What are the things that you are grateful for in this moment that's giving you a sense of resilience and hope? I, for one, would like to say that being part of this conference is something that I'm deeply grateful for because I know that there are people who are still committed to life in its fullest expression. And that's why we're here today. So I'll give you maybe 4 more minutes and then we'll have some time to share as well in the Zoom chat. Um, would anybody like to share what they wrote down? Oh, I'm seeing already some. Okay. From Rosa, I'm grateful for the kids of the world coming from fresh spirit of imagination, authenticity, and truth. It's beautiful. Leah says, I'm grateful to be living in a safe and respected community. I'm also grateful not to be really poor, even if it seems that we are living hand to mouth. Thank you, Leah. Ami says, I'm grateful for creativity. Saskia says, I'm grateful for being alive in these extraordinary times. I'm grateful for the beauty of nature and the sun rising every morning. I'm grateful I get to share moments like these with brave and inspiring women. Sonia says, I'm grateful for the air I breathe and the space I have to live and thrive in. The people who encourage me to keep going, to rest, to be kind to myself, and as well as others around me. I'm grateful for the laughter with my sister and the hugs from my parents, the late night talks with my partner, and the cuddles from my tiny dog. I'm grateful for the food I cook and for how the world persists. I'm grateful for everyone that chooses to remain optimistic in spite of the challenges the world is experiencing. Wow, thank you, Grace. Linda says, I'm so grateful for my friends, my family, my collaborators. They remind me to practice being the kind of person I want to be and practice shaping the kind of world I want to live in. Yeah. Taylor says, I'm grateful for the sun. Jessica says, I'm grateful that my futuring practice gives me tools to address the wicked problems we're facing. Yeah. Oh, so many. It's amazing. Um, thank you, Inda, for sharing the poem. Yipeng says, I'm grateful I have my basic needs met, that I'm healthy and can move with ease. I'm also grateful for all the people who are on the front lines fighting against authoritarianism. Yeah. Priscilla says, I'm grateful for family, friends, love, for being lucky to meet so many amazing people. Milagros says, I'm grateful for the Romero. Oh, okay, growing in my garden. Okay, we have a grower here. We're in good hands. It's amazing. Yeah, so many beautiful messages for sure. Um, Julianne says, I'm grateful for the privilege and opportunity to be a change maker and to be able to raise one. Nadia says, I'm grateful to live in a home in which I feel safe and for the light, almost spring rain, which I can hear on the roof of that home right now. Amazing. Paula says, grateful for women who know that convening circles such as these of diverse feminine experiences gives us with the story memories of each other's resilience. We live on our shared collective awareness, intention, and agency. Yes. Judith says, I'm grateful for the privilege of imagining futures, that I have enough to not worry about what I'll eat tomorrow. Yeah. Rosa says, I'm grateful for feeling endless love. Wow, so much abundance in this room, huh? Sabrina says, I'm grateful for all of the women and non-binary beings on this call who represent a large portion of the world and who work and play in multiple disciplines and intelligences. I welcome the collective wisdom that we bring, which has been passed to us from our ancestors, and acknowledge the absolute womb power that creates, births, and nurtures. It excites me and how we can liberate and evolve this world with grace and care. Yes, absolutely. Okay, I will read one more because I have some more slides for you, some more provocations. I'm grateful for the opportunity to connect art with the future and to share this vision with my family, friends, and students. Exploring how creativity and foresight intertwine allows me to inspire others to see the world through a broader, more imaginative lens. Art has the power to shape the way we envision tomorrow, and being able to guide those around me in embracing this perspective is both fulfilling and meaningful. Whether through discussions, teaching, or creative projects, I cherish the chance to encourage others to think beyond the present and imagine new possibilities for the future. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing, and please continue to share in the chat. I just wanted to share a few more slides because I'm conscious of time as a futurist. Duh. um, but just have some provocations for you. Um, so this is a quote that I have from Bell Hooks. Why, I think a lot about why do we need to have grief and gratitude as um two life energies, right? And there's a quote from Bell Hooks about dominator culture, which I'd like to read for you. Dominator culture has tried to keep us all afraid, to make us choose safety instead of risk, sameness instead of diversity. Moving through that fear, finding out what connects us, reveling in our differences, this is the process that brings us closer, that gives us a world of shared values, of meaningful community. Um, Dominator culture, which I call the colonizer culture, thrives on fear and it thrives on isolation. Everything that the colonizer does is to keep everybody isolated from each other, right? Because when you can disconnect things, when you can disconnect life, you can control it and have power over it. And so having moments like this, circles like this in community where we get to explore these deep, profound emotions allows us to do the one thing that the colonizer does not want us to do, which is to connect. Um, I believe that connecting to each other with grief and gratitude as futurists, it gives us wisdom. It helps us notice what is important to us and what we want to prioritize. It gives us community, which is the foundation for a deeper understanding, true understanding, empathy, and connection with others. It gives us the gift of presence. Grief and gratitude are two life energies that you can only experience in the present moment. So they require us to live in the present moment. And as futurists, we know that we can only create in the present moment, right? And it also gives us the power of emotional courage and resilience, which is the fuel that we need to make the deep changes that we need in our lives and in the world. And so, this futuring practice that we have practiced in this past hour is a real antidote to the colonizer culture. It's an antidote to a system that wants us afraid, constantly afraid of everything, right? Of everything that is an expression of life. Um, and so I invite you to reflect on how you can bring these types of circles more into uh, your communities, more into your workplaces, being in touch with how you feel. That is embodied wisdom, right? And from that place, you can create really powerful things in the world. So, futuring with wisdom, I want to leave you with 3 questions. And it's an open also, Thais and Abril. I'd love to hear your reflections. I've been seeing you typing away. Um, um, for me, futures is a space where we envision new ways of being human. Um, and so I have 3 provocations for you. You know, how can we harness the power of grief and gratitude in our futures practices? What can we learn from other life beings about grief and gratitude to inform our futures practices? And what rituals of connection, such as what we've done today, can we integrate in our lives to help us process this era of deep change, this once in a lifetime change? Um, yeah. So Thais and Abrid, I'd love to hear your reflections. Because I have a few minutes that I'd like to leave for people to um, sometimes when we go deep, we need time to rebalance, and I'd like to honor that space. So if you have a few minutes to share anything, and then I'd like to leave some time for people to rebalance.
For sure.
Absolutely.
You want to start, Thais? You can go.
Sure. Yeah, I think I really like your first question, how you bring grief and power in the futures practice. I think it's very aligned with the feminist principles of not seeing time as a linear thing or using futures to kind of basically map all the scenarios and get there first before your competitors and colonize it and influence it and oppress your version over everyone else. It's really about understanding all the timelines that exist at the same time, right? And holding space for the dualities and the paradoxes that we all live in. And maybe the future is not like somewhere where we want to go. It's much more a feeling, really, of this kind of endless emergence and complexity. That's what's coming up for me
Mm,
here. Abril?
Yes, for me, the one that stick with me is what can we learn from the other life being about grief and gratitude to inform our futures practices. And there is a quote from Bayo Akumalafe that I like a lot. That it's the times are urgent. Let's slow us down. And I think that nature, it's um it's one of the most resilient and slowing down to grow, to nurture. And I think that for me, that's one of the most powerful ways of learning from other other life
mm,
to the future.
yes, for sure. Thank you. Um, so I want to close as I promised. Sometimes, as I mentioned, sometimes as we go deep, it can a lot of things can come up. And before the next session starts in 5 minutes, I just wanted to give you all some time, maybe to to reconnect and to rebalance your nervous system if it's necessary. And there's some things you can do that I've listed um, on the slides. Perhaps some deep breathing or movement or stepping out into nature, hugging yourself, touching something that's not too hot, but hot or cold, as a way of re-engaging your and rebalancing your nervous system. And I will leave a few minutes before so you can go and do this, but I just wanted to close our session by firstly saying thank you. And I wanted to leave you with this blessing from an Irish theologian called Thresholds. That we are here is a huge affirmation. Somehow life needed us and wanted us to be. To sense and trust this primeval acceptance can open a vast spring of trust within the heart. It can free us into a natural courage that casts out fear and opens up our lives to become voyages of discovery, creativity, and compassion. No threshold need be a threat, but rather an invitation and a promise. Whatever comes, the great sacrament of life will remain faithful to us, blessing us always with visible signs of invisible grace. We merely need to trust. And so I trust that this threshold of deep change that we're experiencing um, will allow us to flourish and to thrive. Thank you so much for allowing me to hold this circle for you.
Thank you so much, Marion. This was really, really beautiful, and thanks for holding this space for all of us and helping us start this 24-hour acknowledging the duality of grief and gratitude. Thank you.